It probably won't come as a surprise that when you are dating a man, and even when you are in a long-term relationship with one, he will not always tell you how he really feels about certain things. But there's more. There are still a lot of misconceptions. Some women, for example, believe men are like this, when in reality, they are like that. Even society sometimes still gets it wrong. Now, I recently made a YouTube video for my imaginary daughter, since I don't have a daughter myself, where I gave some important truths about men, and that video got a lot of great feedback from all my imaginary daughters I didn't even know I had. And I truly appreciate that. So in this video, I want to give you 3 confessions from the male mind that may be very helpful in your love life, regardless of your age, even if you could be my imaginary grandmother, so to speak. 3 things some men wish you knew, but may never tell you. Yeah, I know, the fact that men can be very complex at times is probably not a surprise, but some of the things I'm about to tell you may very well be. If you don't know me yet, I'm an author. My real name is Geert. I also go by the pen name Brian Knox. I write about dating, relationships, and other topics. And the first confession from the male mind is that a lot of men have a huge need for emotional support. Yeah, the gender that finds it super difficult to talk about their emotions needs emotional support. And well, that's exactly one of the reasons why, in fact. When a lot of men grow up, they learn to man up, to not show emotions. Because who needs emotions when we can just bottle them up until our midlife crisis? Emotions are weak. They make us weak, we were often told. For my generation, that was still the case. People actually told me that. Even teachers at my school. And if we did show a lot of emotions or expressed that we wanted to talk about them, usually that made other people feel very uneasy. For some people, when a grown-up man cries, for example, that's still pretty strange. It becomes a big thing, and they don't always know how to react. A friend of mine was crying one day because a guy he grew up with had suddenly died, and a couple of days later, his teenage kids came to me and said, Geert, Dad has been crying a lot lately. So, what now? As if that was the beginning of the end of the world and the first zombies had arrived. And that was probably the first time they saw a grown man cry, let alone their father. How many men have you seen crying? Probably not a lot, right? My own mother recently died, also very unexpectedly and way too young, and my sister and I found my mother in her apartment on Mother's Day. On Mother's Day of all possible days. So that was very hard, and when I was preparing the photo presentation for her funeral, I couldn't stop crying. It was the first time in my life I cried like that. Unstoppable tears. But nobody saw it. When other people were present during the funeral, for example, I couldn't cry. I wanted to, but I really couldn't. Also interesting, family members brought cooked meals to my sister, like spaghetti bolognese, but that didn't happen for me because apparently men don't need to eat when they are grieving. They also called my sister and asked if she needed help. But we men need emotional support too, of course, and some of us love spaghetti, and I don't blame them, but it's something I found interesting. And luckily, many of my friends did call to ask if I needed any help. Now, aside from that, men also often think they can do things on their own, no help needed, partially because that is what our role models show us. And you even see that in a lot of big movies, like James Bond. Does James Bond have a big team he goes out on missions with? No, his team is back home. He's usually out there alone, saving the world on his own with a martini. And as boys, we grew up watching many movies with solitary superheroes. A lot of men, for these and many other reasons, will not ask for emotional support, even though they need it at times, sometimes a lot. Here's another one you may not know. A thing most men love a lot about the bedroom activities with a woman may not be what you think. See, the actual physical act is obviously a lot of fun, but what is very important to a lot of men is the fact that the woman they like truly desires them. Men have a desire to be desired, just like a lot of women. And for some men that's mostly physical. Other men want to be desired for their intelligence or achievements. And you may notice that in conversations where they try to show how smart or successful they are. And this may not surprise you. But you may not know that when they feel that the woman they like truly desires them, they feel a deep emotional connection to her. It opens the gates to an emotional connection. A lot of men will find it pretty hard to choose between having their girlfriend or wife tell them, I love you, versus her saying, I desire you. The first one is, Okay, love you too. But the second one is what? What was that? Being desired fulfills very important emotional needs, and it can even make a man feel loved. But there's more. Men crave to be important. Whether they are out on the football field, playing a computer game with friends, trying to lift heavy weights, or are working hard at their job, they crave to be important, to be seen as a winner, a leader. And it starts at a very young age. It's part of what testosterone does. Testosterone gives a man that competitiveness, that desire to achieve things. Now, if a woman he likes desires him, then he feels important, like a winner, because she can choose other men, but she picked him. Make no mistake, every man knows that his girlfriend or wife, if she walked into a bar or a networking event, could walk out with the phone numbers of many interested men. And you know how we know? When we walk around with our lady, we see other men look at her all the time. They don't even hide it. They're too busy staring at her. So if that lovely woman who's clearly in high demand still picks us and then desires us, whoa, that's a big deal. If for some reason you have never tried this, make it clear to your guy that you desire him. Very clear. And then watch the magic. The level of how well he treats you may suddenly go from here, okay, to here. Absolutely awesome. He will probably also become much more affectionate. But if a man feels undesired by his girlfriend or wife, then she will not get his best behavior. She will see an emotionally distant man. Here's another confession from the male mind. Men suffer from the pressure to provide. Now I can hear some women think, what? They what now? We don't need them to provide. Pressure? What pressure? And true, you don't need it. But men have a built-in instinct that makes them want to provide. I feel it, my male friends feel it, and a lot of the men I've interviewed when I wrote my books felt it. It's a thing. We prefer to be seen as not weak, and we like to take care of the ones we love. And here is why this is felt as pressure. As soon as a man falls for a woman, he wants to make her happy. He also wants to take her out to nice places like a nice restaurant. He wants to take her on a trip to London or Paris or wherever, as long as she thinks it's special. Talking about London, I was once there with a girlfriend who was important to me, and I had booked us a room in a great hotel. It's just that when we entered our room, we were looking at a wall through our window. Not an outdoor wall, no, still in the hotel. Window, internal wall. I didn't know that was possible. Now, on the hotel booking website, it did say for some much more expensive rooms, room with a view. But I didn't know that meant if your room did not have this feature, you would be staring at an indoor wall. So as much as my girlfriend tried to hide it, I could obviously see she wasn't really happy with the room, which made me unhappy with the room. But the hotel was fully booked. You wouldn't believe the mountains I had to climb to get us a better room. One with a view of Big Ben. And not because she wanted that. No, I wanted it for her. She didn't even have to ask. I had booked the wrong room and I wanted to make things right. And I know many women would have felt and done the same thing, of course, if they had booked a room. But this video is about men. So when a man loves a woman, he wants to make her happy. And that pressure to provide is not the woman's fault. The man creates it. And it goes deeper. When a man is in a relationship, he may suddenly believe he needs to earn more money to be able to book a room with a view, but also to be able to buy a house together eventually, or to be able to provide for their future kids, and also her kids if she's a single mother. He may suddenly start to work much harder and longer hours. He also wants to take care of other manly things, like, let me give you some inside information. If you want to hurt your man's feelings and ego a lot, then if there's anything that needs to happen at your place, whether you live alone or you both live together, like if the kitchen cabinets need to be fixed or something heavy needs to be moved, do not ask your man, but ask a male friend or a colleague to come over and do it. Or even worse, ask one of his friends. There's no better way to tell your man, you cannot provide for me. It's like an arrow straight through his heart. So in general, even though a lot of women don't need their man to provide for them, and some even don't want it, it's an instinct in men, and it creates a lot of internal pressure. There are scientific studies that prove this, and also studies that concluded that women, in general, across many cultures, do tend to select ambitious men who can provide resources. Men see that, and it creates pressure. If you're interested, I'll put some links in the description to some studies. These were 3 things some men would love for you to know, while they may not tell you on their own. Please let me know what you thought of this in the comments, and if you want more secrets about men, come over to brianknox.com and make sure to subscribe to my mailing list over there, or read one of my books. You can find them on Amazon by searching for my pen name, Brian Knox. And thank you for still being here at the very end of my video. I love it when you do that. It's an emotional need I personally have, and I'm not afraid to admit it, so I hope to see you in another video.